Check me. Full time. Doing gang things. Living super clean. That done came up. Can't control us. One time for the men doing cane thing. Dead fresh to the T, living super clean. 3 times for my folk that done came up. 4 times cause the man can't control us. One time for the men doing cane thing. Dead fresh to the T, living super clean. 3 times for my folk that done came up. 4 times cause the man can't control us. Look at you, you done came up now. Get it how you live, mess the game up now. Ain't messing with yoga, but get the flame up. Hey, used to be Toby, but got your name back now. I see ya, paid under pressure. 25 lighters got them all on the dresser. If it ain't for you, ain't for you then. If you a lame or a sucker, wanna dress you then. Grown up now, bump the childish ways. Got a wife and a bunch of kids to raise. Punch a clock side, hustle or a business you endure to ensure that all the bills is paid. Slow clap for your homeboy. Could've turned out like your homeboy. Been on the same block, cooking up the same rock on the cell block lot with your homeboy. But no, you had vision, you had gold. Brand new you on the old time road, take care. Home where you bust your low. Black men don't teach, screaming on the hoe. Real men talk, real king ways. Still in captivity, but minds ain't slave. Got a little wisdom, boy, you PD grade. Giving out the knowledge on the stoop these days. One time for the men doing cane thing. Dead fresh to the T, living super clean. 3 times for my folk that came up. 4 times cause the man can't control up. 1 time for the men doing cane thing. Dead fresh to the T, living super clean. 3 times for my folk that came up. 4 times cause the man can't control up. 1 time for the folk that have moved up. Even if you had a slow start screwed up. Used to gang bang, now homie brewed up. Had a little plan, I had them blew up. Look at you like a man right now. Dressed to the T, smelling like a grand right now. And you ain't got nothing from a handout now. Just faith and hard work, gets it planned out now. You could've took a bunch of dusty rolls. The hand dealt with a bunch of cards to fold. To stay hot while the world is freezing cold. The same plot, but the story's never old. Slow clap for your kinfolk. Could've been asking what your info. Prosecutor could be trying to do you in for the 2020 twins, so you passing out the info. But no, you had purpose, you had plans. I ain't doing nothing, I'ma say these bands won't impress y'all, don't need no fans. That ain't my God, who is that man? This real men talk, real king ways. Still in captivity, but minds ain't slave. Got a little wisdom, boy, you peep these grades. Giving out the knowledge on the stoop these days. 1 time for the men doing cane thing. Dead fresh to the T, living super clean. 3 times for my folk that came up. 4 times cause the man can't control up. 1 time for the men doing cane thing. Dead fresh to the T, living super clean. 3 times for my folk that came up. 4 times cause the man can't control up. Yeah, real man. Sheesh. Yeah. Doing cane things. Living super clean. Daddy came up.
1 time for my king doing king things. Mom these hoes cause he know he got a good thing. I submit and I cook and I clean and I never hold back on that wop, I'ma let it rain. Made me honest, I got a rain. All praises to the most high, let it sing. A real man able, sister never Cain. And I ain't going nowhere, this is not a game. Look at you, girl, you lonely right now. Settling for bums instead of men the most high. He provide and protect so he get our respect. And he leading us aboard when them chariots fly. I don't really think you hear me though. You can't cross this bridge on some billy goats. Let them save you in the end like a Seminole. Be help me, shout it, let the silly go.
1 time for the men doing cane thing. Dead fresh to the T, living super clean. 3 times for my folk that came up. 4 times cause the man can't control up. 1 time for the men doing cane thing.
Shalom and shalom, sisters and cousins, and praise the Lord, saints. It's your favorite housewife, Miss Mono. There we go. Hello, everyone on this wonderful evening. All praises to the Most High for being here, for life, for strength, all of those good things. I hope y'all doing all right on this wonderful Thursday evening. Get my tea together here. I know y'all, I don't drink tea for the effect. I know some people think like I drink the tea during the show to like give an effect. I really don't. It's to save my throat. It really is to save my throat. So today on Why Boaz Don't Want Your Ass, our main topic, you stay stuck in the past. We're going to get into that from a few different viewpoints. What's going on in Babylon? Kind of a few things I want to talk about today. And I have a new segment called Sidebar. And I made this segment because sometimes there are things that I want to address, but maybe it's not a whole segment worth of things. So there's a new segment called Sidebar, and we're going to get into that. If you're on the YouTube, give us a like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you know when we go live here at the House of Mono. I have to tell y'all something. If you're on Facebook, I can't see your comments like during the show. It doesn't show up in the live chat. So if you are on Facebook, head over to the YouTube at Monologue McGad. I'm going to put it in the corner here. Yes. The YouTube at Monologue McGad. That way you can be a part of the conversation. You can add your comments, all that good stuff. Make sure you give a like and share. Alrighty then. Okay, what's going on in Babylon? First and foremost, shalom, Brianza. Thank you so much for joining me, sis. I don't know if you guys have heard, but they have decided not to press charges in the death of Shanquella Robinson. And if you don't remember who that is, she was this young sister that went to Mexico with who she thought were her friends. And from, all the videos and everything we saw, the assumption that the video led everyone to is that her friends quite frankly beat her to death. But apparently the government has decided that there's not enough evidence to charge anyone for that. And it's so frustrating because they're using some type of legalese, some type of stuff that does not make common sense to excuse it. Because regardless, like we saw the video, everybody saw the video. So how is there not enough evidence to convict anyone of this child's death? I don't know. I'm praying for her family. I hope they get some kind of justice. But we all know who has the last say. So please believe you will not get away with shedding innocent blood. So again, let's just keep her family in our prayers and hope that they, get some peace in this time. If you're on the Instagram, on Facebook, please head over to the YouTube at Monologue McGad, MONOLOG MAGAD. This way you can take part in the conversation and, see everything that's going on over here. All right. So I'm going to call it what's going on in Babylon. We're going to leave it right here. I saw conversations today on Facebook, and a lady was talking about how she feeds the homeless. And one person responded that she doesn't like feeding the homeless because she took a man McDonald's once and, he got mad at her and yelled or whatever because he didn't want the McDonald's. And then someone else commented, oh, he probably wanted some alcohol. So then, of course, I'm not giving nobody no alcohol, blah, 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 blah. And I started to comment on the thread, but I was like, why? I often don't comment because there seems to be like a rampant lack of common sense. I don't know. But anyway, so I didn't comment on the thread, but I did make a post saying that I said something about people who people who are upset about homeless people wanting alcohol is beyond me. And it is. And oddly enough, one of the first comments, or I think the first comments, alluded to addiction, right? And if I remember correctly, it was in the sense of, that's probably what got them there or something like that. And then there was another comment, again, alluding to addiction. And I want to say, like, one reason why I'm so comfortable saying what I'm about to say is because, as my husband posted, the Bible tells us to let them people drink. Man, they are miserable. Let them drink, okay? So here's what I want to ask. When you are at a bar, when you are at a party, when you are at home at the crib chilling, and somebody asks you, hey, do you want to drink? Does the question of addiction pop up, or do you just want to drink? And so why is it that when the question of alcohol and homelessness comes up, the first thing that people jump to is an addiction? I I'm on social media a lot, okay? And I see people who I'm not going to say choose, but no, some people do choose to be homeless. I've seen people who choose to live in their car, live in a non-traditional home setting, okay? And then I understand there are some people that do not choose to be homeless. I get that. But just because a person is homeless doesn't mean that we have the right to deny them of choices of their humanity. Listen, maybe the brother ain't want McDonald's that day. For all you know, he could be a vegetarian. He could be like, you don't know. And I don't think it's right for us to assume that just because someone is homeless, that they're not entitled to make their own choices. Like, if you feel led to give, then give. Give out of your heart, give freely as you are led to give. But don't give with stipulations and circumstances and judgment. Like, you might as well keep it then. So that, I just wanted us to kind of think about that. How we tend to generally typecast and stereotype people. You know how they have those things on TikTok where it's like, what's trashy if you are poor, but classy if you're rich. So apparently, if you're poor, it's trashy to want alcohol, but it's perfectly fine if you're rich to sit around all day drinking champagne and wine and everything else. Like, that's perfectly fine. And even the media will back that up. I mean, if you go to any reality show, what are they plying people with? Endless amounts of alcohol. But that's okay. These people aren't charged with having an addiction. No, that doesn't come to anyone's mind when they see these women guzzling bottle after bottle of wine. But a homeless person who has every right to want to drink, they're the problem. That's not right now. Talk about a double standard. So feel free to jump in the chat. Let me know what y'all think. Even if you don't agree, that's fine. That is perfectly okay. Okay, so our new segment called Sidebar. Just a little something I wanted to address. So earlier this week, I posted a video from a content creator called Shira7. And I like what she has to say as far as women not settling for less. I get all that. There's one thing that she said though. If you're not married, you're single, and you're single until you're married. And I tend to share this sentiment. But as my husband so graciously pointed out to me, when I say it and when somebody else says it, it kind of means two different things. So I just wanted to clear this up, okay? When I'm saying single until married, maybe I should change that to single until engaged, okay? Because I feel like what a lot of us do is we meet a guy that we like, we have a good conversation, we go out on a date or two, and we've made a relationship with someone else totally by ourselves. Like, you start to imagine a relationship that this gentleman never asked you to be a part of. He didn't ask you to commit to him. He didn't ask you none of that. Y'all just kick it. Y'all have a good time together. And you get excited and, you don't want to share him with nobody else. You cut everybody else off. You put all your focus on him. He didn't ask you to do that. And he never told you that he was doing that in return. Okay. So I said single till engaged. And let me be clear, I'm directing that toward a certain age group. Okay. I'm talking about 30, 35, 40. Because for me personally, I didn't want to be called somebody's girlfriend at 35. Like, that just didn't feel right. So, but that's where I was at in my life. Okay. I had kids already. I had been divorced already. I had, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was a lot more serious in my dating. And I had decided at that point, I was not going to exclude myself until I had a full commitment, which was an engagement. Okay. But now, ladies, listen, if that's not your situation, or especially some of you younger ladies, consider yourself single until you're asked not to be single. Okay. And even with that, dating is not sex. Dating is not sex. Sex is not a part of dating. Okay. Once you add sex to the equation, now you're making, now you're making it more than the other person may be agreeing to. All right. And again, this is where a lot of our feelings get confused. This is where we get caught up. You get hypnotized. You know what I'm saying? So it is safest to not have sex until you get married. Period. I mean, it's in the Bible for a reason. God gave us that for a reason. Okay. And I don't, again, it's like we refuse to look around and see what the consequences of our behavior has led us to. Okay. We're here in this age of single parents, baby moms, and baby dads, and everything else because we refuse to follow the laws of the Most High and not have sex until we are married. So now, when someone in the world says you're single until you're married, I understand that they may be like endorsing hoe culture and, thought is life and all this other stuff. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am not. If you've been here long enough, then you know that my purpose is to give you practical application to theoretical knowledge, meaning helping you to apply the Bible practically in your everyday life. Okay. So in no means am I telling anyone to hoe until you get married, to have sex before you're married, and anything like that. No. What I'm saying is date, whatever, until you are asked to be exclusive. Okay. Until that point, do what you gotta do. And I don't, again, within the parameters of the law. I just want to, maybe I should just like have a running banner. Like anything I'm saying is in the parameters of the law. Okay. So let's be clear about that. I've heard some brothers say that sex is marriage. What is your stance on that? Okay. So biblically, yes, sex is marriage. As stated in the Bible, sex is marriage. In this day and time that we're living in, however, I advise my daughters to get a marriage certificate before they consider themselves married. Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is there's no one to enforce the marriage once you've had sex if you've not had it legally recognized. We don't live in the time of community and tribal policing and personal responsibilities and families and people being around to hold the man accountable. That doesn't happen these days. And I hate to say this, I really do, because I'm not trying to bash men. I'm not trying to generalize men at all. But unfortunately, I have witnessed too many men tell women that sex is marriage, have sex with them, and then disappear. That's not cool. And it does happen. Okay. So to protect yourself, I would advise you to have a formally, legally recognized marriage. Now, if you are already in the situation where you've agreed to that, then ma'am, sis, cousin, you took that vow. So this is not for you. I'm talking to my single sisters who still have yet to make this decision. So right, and it can be used loosely. Exactly. It can be used loosely, like the word love. And that's what they used to tell you, right? Oh, I love you. If you love me, you will, So because it is abused, I would not stand on that. Like I said, I tell my daughters to get their paper. So get your paper, boo-boo. Get your paper. Don't again, not to generalize, but don't let a nigga play in your face. Don't let him do that. Like y'all gotta check these men out. When they come at you with that, well, ask them, how many times have you been married? Or how many women around here think that they married to you right now? You know what I'm saying? You gotta ask the right questions. You can't just ask them, are you married? Does anybody think that they're married to you? Okay, that's the question that you need to be asking. Because no, I'm not married. Okay, well, is there somebody around here that thinks she's Mrs. Such and such? So yeah, that's my stance on that. Our main topic: you stay stuck in the past. And of course, we all want to go to Lot's wife and how she became a pillar of salt when they were leaving Sodom and Gomorrah, and rightfully so, because she became a pillar of salt looking backwards, right? So I get it. But if we bring it to our present day lives, right? A lot of us, when things get hard in our current situation, especially when you start to come into some truths, not just in your spiritual life, but in your personal life, it can be very tempting to want to go back to the past, a past before you knew this information, right? Okay. Let's just speak frankly, if I may. Sometimes it's a struggle to sit back and not celebrate birthdays, holidays, things like that. Okay. And so it can be tempting to want to go back to a time where you were not aware that this was a sin, right? But you can't. Okay. You can't turn back the clock. And now that you know you're responsible for this information. But what you have to remember is for the most part, the past is the place that you prayed to get away from, right? You wanted more for your life. You wanted better for your life. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you choose to look at it, we do not get to choose how we get to better in our life, what the better for our life is, what it's going to look like. We don't get to choose any of that. It's like I had to explain to one of my daughters, and I know this is a hard thing to understand, but we really don't have as much control over our lives as we think we do. You understand what I'm saying? The Bible tells us the Bible tells us that God will give us the desires of our heart. But a lot of people don't understand that. That does not mean that the things that you currently want are the things that you are going to get. That means that your heart will be changed and now you will desire the things of the Lord. Okay? Don't Angelina, shalom and shalom. We get caught up in what our flesh wants. And that is another reason why a lot of us will stay stuck in the past. Once you decide to change your life and live more peacefully, the fun of the past can look tempting, okay? But what we also need to keep in mind is the things in the past that we were running from, right? There's a reason that it's the past. And I'm not talking about just because, the days flip by on the calendar. I mean, the people and situations that you were involved with during that time period. There's a reason that you're not involved with those people and situations anymore. I would hope it is out of a sense of growth and maturity. And that can be hard. It can be lonely. I get it. Okay. But like Lot's wife, if you keep looking in the past, you literally can't move forward. If you've ever taken a ballet class, they tell you the direction that your head moves in is where your body will go. That is why the ballerinas learn early on to keep focused on one thing, even when they're spinning around. I don't know if any of you've ever been taught this, but you're supposed to choose an object to focus on, bring your head quickly back to that object, even as your body is spinning. Okay. wherever you're looking is where your body will naturally go. So if you're constantly looking in the past, while you may not physically return to the past, your mind is there. Okay. Your thoughts are there. So how are you working toward the future if your mind and your thoughts are in your past? I was just talking about this. It can definitely get lonely, but the seclusion is so necessary. It's very necessary. It I can't even begin to explain to you how necessary it is, as like it's proving something I'm going through right now in my life is proving why you need to be able to stand with you and God alone. Okay. Um and I mean, even in marriage, right? You have to be firm in your relationship with God. Um Otherwise, you'll just keep repeating the same stuff over and over again. You'll keep failing the test over and over again. You'll be what I call an old fool. I told y'all, I tell you guys all the time, like 40 was that age for me. 40 was the age where I was like, all right, I'm gonna have my stuff together. Like, I'm not gonna be walking around lost at 40. Okay. But uh, if we be honest, we know a few people who are over 40 and still have not gotten it together. I don't pretend to know everyone's situation, but from what I know from my own personal experience, from witnessing others' lives, is that a lot of times that people will not commit to the growth process. They don't want to leave those things behind that have become so comforting to them. And I know, it's like, oh, well, how can a bad thing be comforting? If that is the mindset that you are used to, it can become comforting in opposition to walking towards something that you don't know. Okay. Um, it's just like women who stay in abusive relationships. A lot of people don't understand that they've just become so comfortable with this routine that now they're scared to try to step out and do anything else because that's the unknown. That's the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen out there. Okay. But I know in here, I'm going to have about 2 or 3 days. On the fourth day, he going to beat me. And then we're going to be good. You know what I'm saying? They've become accustomed to that. They've come looking for it. Have you ever seen a woman, or have you ever talked to a woman or heard the story of a woman who feels like if her man is not beating her, he doesn't love her? And I know y'all gonna think that's crazy, but I promise you it's not. I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship with someone or heard of someone that just continuously has to have drama, or they feel like they're not loved. Like if there's not always a high level of intensity about what's going on in their life, then they can't possibly be satisfied. They become comfortable in the drama. The drama soothes them. Okay. Let me read this comment. Shalom, shalom. Seclusion is necessary, and the Most High is with us during that period of time. Currently going through that season now. All praises. Listen, I get you. Okay. And it's a very necessary time period for for a few things. Okay. I know when I went through that period for me, um, I just really spent a lot of time asking God to make me want what he wanted. I didn't pray for what I wanted. I prayed to want what God wanted for me. I was at the point where I'm like, me and my plans, I give up. Okay? Me and my will, I give up. I don't know what's going on. What I have found in my life is I would say that I would want something, not fully understanding what that thing included. And then when I got the thing, it would be like, this is not what I bargained for. This isn't what I wanted. And so it's like, okay, am I going to keep bumping my head, trying to get what I want the way that I think that I want it? Or am I going to take my hands off and let God have his way? Right? And let me just say this. It's not wrong to want to be married. Okay? I know we live in this time where women are constantly being told, "Oh, marriage isn't the goal. Marriage isn't all that. Blah 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 blah." Listen, opinions are like poop holes, okay? Everybody has one and some of them stink. A lot of times people will deter you from the choices that you feel led to make because of bad choices that they've made in their own past. Like I say a lot, like a lot of women that are advising against marriage are only advising against marriage because they married the wrong person. Okay? Um just because you had a bad marriage doesn't mean the next person has to. And I honestly feel like if you don't have anything positive to say, then just don't say anything at all. Instead of just, but anyway, that's another topic altogether. Um, and so the thing is, while you're praying to get away from people, to get away from situations, you become attached to that. And this is another reason why, ladies, I know the emotional attachment is so strong and the bond is so strong. That's the point of sex. The point of sex is to strengthen the bond between a man and his wife. Okay. It's supposed to make, yes, it's supposed to make it so the wife falls more in love with the husband and the husband with the wife. But what y'all do is you go out here and you have sex with people who have no intention of staying around. And the fact that, or not the fact, because it's not a fact, but you thinking that you can turn off your biological processes that lead to these feelings that are supposed to come with sex is just another trick of the enemy. Okay? Because all you're doing is lying to yourself and causing yourself more harm. And what's going to happen is you keep lying to yourself, then you finally get a good man, y'all get married, y'all fall in love, and now you have to try to undo all the lies that you told yourself about sex. And I've talked to y'all about this before, how I had to undo some things so that I could be fully present and having sex with my husband. Listen, it's different having sex when you're not in sin. Okay? It's different. You got to get used to that. And we shouldn't have to, right? The truth is, that should be our only experience. But unfortunately, we chose to sin and now we have to deal with it. Okay. So you'll stay where you're merely tolerated, or you'll stay where you impose yourself, right? What do you mean impose myself? You're not calling him, he's calling you. You're not texting him, he's texting you. They didn't ask you to come, you invited yourself. That's imposing. This is when you're just merely being tolerated instead of being willing to be alone until you get the love that you deserve. Because that comfort of something is better than the unknown of the future. And even when you're talking about your time of seclusion, that comfort of something can be better than the silence of nothing. Because listen, sitting in that silence, if you have an ear to hear, God is going to start dealing with you. He's going to start dealing with your thoughts. He's going to start dealing with your mind, with your heart. He's going to deal with you in this time if you're open to let him do it. And that can be very uncomfortable. Okay. Because if you really let him get down to the nitty gritty, you're going to have to face some regrets. You're going to have to reconsider some decisions. You're going to have to examine your life and the way you're looking at it now. I had to look at some of the things that I was doing with my own children. And listen, ask yourself, Pray to am I being a good enough mother? Am I being a biblical mother? Okay, because unfortunately, a lot of times we get caught up in just wanting to be our kids' friends, wanting them to have a smooth life, wanting everything to be easy, trying to be nice to them, and that's all well and good. But the Bible clearly speaks about what happens to children when we refuse to discipline them and how they bring shame to their parents. Okay, so we can't act like actions don't have consequences. And this is, what I talk about when I say that, like, we don't like to face reality. You can't act like if you turn on the hot water is not going to come out. You can't act like if you don't go out here and make these sinful decisions that you're not going to have to pay for them. You are. And let me say this, like, a lot of, when I say pay for your sins, it's not always in terms of, some catastrophe or disaster or some kind of, terrible judgment like that. No, sometimes it's when God is dealing with you and he bring this up and you got to face that regret. Or sometimes it's when you look at a current situation in your life and you're like, you know what, this would be different if I would have. I wouldn't be dealing with this if I would have back then. A lot of issues and stuff that we deal with are still attached to us because we did not deal with them back then. All right. We are so busy being distracted, again, thinking that we're going to the thing, right? This life that we think we want, the soft life, the comfortable life. We think we're headed towards that thing, but we're moving in a direction that we decided. And the fact of the matter is that's not going to work. Okay. I'm looking for the words here. If God tells you to move from a place, it's for a reason. Okay? And a lot of times you may not know that reason. All right? God has told me to leave a few places in my life, right? And I know that the times that I didn't listen, it ended in a disaster. All right. It may not have been like a whole wide disaster, but it was a fight. It was something that was horrible that could have been totally prevented if I would have been being obedient. Right. But because I was not willing to let that thing of the past go, now I'm stuck here dealing with the mess and the consequences of it. Okay. And y'all ain't gotta, listen, you don't have to talk to me. You don't have to talk to anybody else. But what you do have to deal with is yourself. Right. And I can't imagine, I don't know what a life without self-examination is like. I can't imagine like just walking blindly through life. No, I'm not gonna say I can't imagine because I did for a while. Okay. But in my mindset right now, I don't know how I did that. Um, and so um, I can't imagine willingly doing that at this point. And I understand a lot of people, when you come out of a thing and you look back at it, you may realize that that's what you were doing, right? So now it's time to make a decision. Am I going to stay here? Because you're not going to move forward. As long as you keep holding on to that thing that God is telling you to let go, you're not going to progress. And see, this is the thing. We don't like to acknowledge the fact that one part of our life can affect our entire life. If something's going on in your personal life at home, you got an attitude at work, you got an attitude at the grocery store, you got an attitude with everybody, you don't want to be bothered. If something's going on at work, you taking it out at home on the kids, you still walking around with an attitude. Every other part of your life affects everything. So refusing to deal with a problem in one part of your life will hinder the rest of your life. And I get it, because I remember thinking like, well, why is it why can't I just date casually? Like, why can't I just spend time with this rando? Why can't I just do the things that everyone else seems to be able to do and enjoy it? Like, why can't I have fun? But the thing is, once you are allowed to see the things and do the things that other people are doing, you come to find out that it's not really all that. It's not all that fun that you thought it was. And also, it may include a cost that you are not willing to pay. Let's talk about the days, the weeks, the months, and the years that we waste on mistakes, on foolishness, on fear, being afraid to move ahead. And I think that's a major part of what keeps us stuck in our past. Again, because like the old folks used to say, better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. But that's not always that does not always make sense. And now I'm the first one to say, stay in your lane. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm very careful about what I look into, what I want to get into, just because I know enough to know that I don't need to be a part of everything. I don't need to try everything. Some things, again, come with costs that you may not be ready or willing to pay. Some situations, some people have problems and issues that you may not be ready or willing to deal with. And now you've gotten involved with this person and your life has turned into a living hell and you can't figure out why. There's a principle about staying away from the unlucky and the unsuccessful or something like that. But it basically talks about it's basically kind of along the lines of you are who you hang with. Okay. And a lot of you are trying to move to the next level in your life spiritually. Some of you are trying to move with careers and all that other stuff. But and here's the thing, right? Y'all not just hanging with these people. When it comes to females, like, this your homegirl, you do what she do, you go where she go. When it comes to males, like, you think you in love, every time you get a chance, you on your back with your legs open for this man. So much so that you can't think about nothing else. And listen, I'm not talking about your husband, okay? Because I don't care where I'm at. If my husband call me and be like, hey, I want you to come home, I'm coming home. That's my husband. He's earned that right. Okay, but y'all be doing that for friends. Friends. And because I don't do boyfriends after a certain age. And, my show, I'm not going to say it's not geared towards 20 somethings, because it is. But most of the advice I tend to give tends to be for a little bit beyond 20 somethings. All right. Because when you look 20 to 25, you should just be dating. You should just be dating. It should be casual, again, until someone makes it clear that they want a commitment. Okay. But my older ladies, I know the clock is ticking. You might want to have some more kids. You're just tired of playing the games. I get it. So there are changes that you have to make in order to get the result that you want. Right. And one thing you cannot do, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, I know a lot of people don't like to hear it, but one thing you cannot do is be propositioning for a new life, be trying to set yourself up to be in a different atmosphere, a different realm, a different echelon of people, if you will, and still trying to hang with the same old people doing the same old stuff, because they will only leave you there. And listen, sometimes it don't have to be as drastic as being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But you just don't understand how even people's attitudes and spirits can influence you. You don't get it. You're hanging around somebody who's not doing anything with their life. They are not motivating you, and you cannot motivate them. No matter how much you try to be an example, no matter how much you try to, show them through your actions that there's more to life out here, ma'am, sis, cousin, no matter how many conversations you try to have with this young man to get him to open his eyes to entrepreneurship or, getting a promotion or whatever else. Listen, if it's not in them, it's not in them. They're not going to do it. You need to recognize this about a person very quickly. And again, you need to accept the reality. Baby, I don't care what you say to that man. If it is not in him to get up and work and earn a living and take care of his family, he's not going to do that. Okay? Even after you marry him, I don't care how. I don't care if you. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you. I want to say, but I'm trying to say it cleanly. Okay. I don't care how magical you think what you're doing is. That's not going to change that. That man going to sit up in that house and continue to play video games and continue to do everything else. And you might be like, oh, that's okay. I'll go to work and he could be a stay-at-home dad. He's not going to say, he's going to continue to stay lazy. Now, him and his issues are his and his mama's or his baby mama's. That's somebody else's problem until you decide to make it yours. All right. And now I'm still not mad at this young man, right? Because he been who he is the entire time. He never lied to you. He never tried to make you think that he was something that he's not. And I know what y'all gonna say. Well, he said, but that's your fault for not looking at what he did or did not do. Right? So now here it is 5-10 years later, and you still complaining because you got to get up every day and go to work, and this nigga laying at home in the bed. But what about 5-10 years ago? Is this the same pattern of behavior? 10 times out of 10, it is. Again, not facing the reality, being afraid to let go. I can tell you right now, every bad decision I ever made, I knew that I should not have done that. God was clearly telling me, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't marry him. Don't go over there. Leave that alone. Don't touch that. But what did I do? I thought I was invincible and, I'm going to make this work. Right? Even though the Most High God is telling me, hey, it's not going to work. Me and my ignorance, well, I'm going to make it work. And it never did, and it never does. And again, it's the fear of letting go that keeps you in these places of disobedience. Yes, it's a place of disobedience. You need to, as quickly as possible, wrap your mind around the fact that, listen, growth is uncomfortable and it hurts. Okay? Sometimes, like Lot's wife, you have to leave with nothing. And go somewhere and start over. I moved into an apartment and I took over the apartment from somebody else, okay? But they lived downstairs. I moved into the upstairs apartment. The person that moved upstairs, who was the landlord, moved downstairs. So I'm in the apartment for a few weeks. And one day I'm laying in the bed and I feel something on my back. And now I know I'm in here by myself. So what is this on my back? And I was in Jersey at the time, okay? And this is around the time when they started banning certain pesticides. And in the Northeast, they had a horrendous bed bug outbreak. It's like every day you turn on the news, there was an outbreak at a hotel, an outbreak here, an outbreak there. So as I roll over on my back, I picked up the perpetrator, put it in a bag, took it to the doctor's office. Of course, it's bed bugs. And now I had been bit a few places, but if you've ever dealt with bed bugs before, you understand like they attack you in your sleep. So I had to leave everything. I took my television, and a few of my clothes. I couldn't even bring everything because, bed bugs are like impossible to kill just about. So I took my TV and some clothes and my dishes, and I had to move somewhere else and start all over. I had a bed that wasn't even 2 years old. I don't think the bed was 2 years old. Okay, I had an apartment full of furniture, but I had to leave it because of this disaster. All right, now, sure, I could have stayed there and wasted all that money and all that time trying to get rid of the problem. But why not just move on? If I know that this is a dead end situation, why not just move on? Okay. Because I went to the landlord and I was like, listen, you got bed bugs. What are you going to do about this? And his answer was to just go to Home Depot and spray around. That wasn't good enough for me. That's not gonna work for me. So to make me feel better about having to leave all my stuff, you can use my security deposit for the rent, sir. I'm out of here. And a lot of times we'll stay someplace because it's comfortable, right? I got all my stuff here. I live here. Everything is here. I don't feel like going through all that. I'm just going to stay here and deal with the bugs. I'll deal with the nuisance. But what we don't realize is the mental and psychological effects that these kind of decisions have on us. Can I tell y'all something? Like for the longest time, maybe for like a year or two after I left that place, I was still scared of bed bugs. I mean, the wind could blow the right way, and I'm like beating on myself, thinking that something is attacking me. Okay, and that kind of effect is what happens when you stay in these bad situations. You stay in these horrible relationships. And it can be, let me tell you something, it can be years, decades until you get into a good relationship, one where you really want to put your 100% effort forward. And the damage of those years ago will come right back up. We go through life and we don't realize the effects of a situation until we are in that situation again. Okay. Yes, the regret that comes with staying. Girl, that's a word right there. Let me tell y'all something about regret. It is a beast. It is a beast, and I'm gonna tell you something. Like, I can understand why lesser people would take themselves out over regret because it's hard, right? It's hard to face your mistakes, and it's something that you can't change. You you can't go back, you can't turn back the hands of time and fix it. Like I think about some of the regrets that I had with my daughters. And it's like no matter how much I sit and talk to them, no matter how much I apologize, no matter how many conversations we have, I can't go back and change that. I have to face it. And it gets hard, okay? Because it's like, all right, it's the past. Let it go. But you don't get to determine how someone else reacts to what you did to them. So I have to stay and face this and do the emotional work and have the conversations. And I want to say this. For some of y'all that may be going through this or going through this, it is hard to walk through. It is. It is a big monster to face. All right. But this is the time when you lean not into the arms of flesh. Okay. not on your own understanding, okay? Because your own understanding would be like, well, listen, this is their issue to deal with. But can I tell you something as a child and also as a mother, okay? When you are healing from your own regret, do not begrudge the people around you from their healing from your actions as well. And what I mean by that is you have no idea how it feels to have your feelings validated. Okay. And as a child who's had to go through life without having my feelings validated, it is a imperative to me that I give that to my children. It is imperative for you because I don't understand how anyone can call themselves moving forward, trying to have a peaceful life. I just don't understand it when you refuse to acknowledge the wrong that you did and try as much as you want God to give you peace and as much as you want God to forgive you and as much as you would like to be able to heal from, forget, or as much as you possibly can move past those mistakes, why would you begrudge that to someone else? Especially your own children. Single moms, we make a lot of emotional decisions, emotional mistakes. We may lash out at our kids. We may not be as present as we should have been. So a lot of times we waste time chasing love from a man when we need to realize like, okay, these kids are here. They need my love right now. I'm not saying it's wrong to try to date when you're a single parent. I'm not saying that at all. But it should not come at the expense of your children, their love, their emotions, their stability. You understand what I'm saying? So when your child gets of that age where they can come to you and say, "Mom, I didn't like this. Mom, this happened. Mom, da 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 da." How can you, knowing you made these mistakes, look them in their face and be like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. That wasn't me." How can you do that? But you want to go to God and cry about what everybody did to you or what this one did to you, what that one did to you, and you want them to pay for their hurt for you, but you don't feel like you need to face the hurt that you did to anybody else. Healing is not just for you. It's supposed to help improve everyone around you. The improvements in yourself are not just for you. It's supposed to be for the good of those around you. But if you never admit that you had to go through anything, if you never admit that you had to heal, if you deny the very existence of the journey, how is anybody around you going to benefit from that? If we're all led to believe that you just fell from heaven and a series of bad events just occurred to you, how are you helping anyone learn any life lessons? How are you helping anyone prevent any further mistakes? I tell my children very often, don't do what I did. Don't do what I did. I tell them some things I pray you never understand. I don't want you to understand what it's like to be a single parent. I don't ever want you to understand what it's like to be divorced. I don't want you to understand too much heartache. You'll say those things out of your mouth, but you're not willing to sacrifice your pride, your feelings to talk about what they need to hear in order to prevent those things from happening. A lot of us don't want to be honest. And honey, you're never going to move past anything if you can't be honest with yourself. You won't even pray about it because you're not being honest with yourself. 10 people around you can be telling you, that's not right, you need to leave. That's not right, you need to leave. And you refuse to acknowledge that, you know what, this is not right and I need to leave. No, he might not be beating on you, but he's not profitable for your future either. And unfortunately, like, we don't seem to understand the difference. Listen, a man doesn't have to be bad for you in order to not be the best for you, right? You can stay in a relationship with someone who's complacent where they are, and y'all can stay in a little one bedroom apartment making what, $15 an hour, and live happily ever after, taking a bus and working for the rest of your life till you die. You can do that. Is that the life you want though? And you staying with that man that has you in that situation is only going to lead you to resent him, especially if you know you have more potential in life. You're going to wake up one day tired of going to work at Walmart, and you're going to start becoming angry at this man because you're going to feel like, well, it's your fault I'm in this situation. I could have had such and such. I could have been with such and such. I could be living like this and like that. You don't have anybody to blame but yourself. But yourself. Because if nobody else told you, God told you, that ain't it. He ain't the one. That's not right. This ain't gonna work. There were signs. There were signs, but you chose to ignore them. And now here you are, unhappy, trapped, can't leave if you want to, and y'all just sitting up angry at each other. There is someone who will push you towards your full potential, okay? But that person is going to require you to let go of your past, right? And what it turns into anger and resentment. You start to blame the other person. And see, you're going to blame the other person because you never stopped when you were younger to examine yourself and take responsibility for yourself, because if you would have did that, you wouldn't be in the situation that you're in. Right? And I know some of y'all may feel like, there's no way out. I can't escape. And I'm not talking to my married women. I'm talking to my single sisters. There's always a way out, boo. You can always escape. You don't have to stay with that and put up with that. All right. I don't care how long y'all been shacking up. That's your baby daddy. If you want better, you will do better. And hear me, I'm not telling anyone to leave anyone. That is not what I'm saying. I don't advocate for that. Listen, speaking in perfection, once you have kids with a man, stay with that man. Stay with that man. You knew his faults before you lay down and had them babies with him. Listen, if he ain't beating on you, your life not in danger, work where you're at. I'm not saying that things can't change. Situations improve every day. God is able, okay? When I speak of these things, I'm more talking to people who are in the process of making these decisions. I understand some of us have already made these decisions, and we may be dealing with the effects of those decisions. Okay? Prayer. And that's what I'm saying about regret. The only way you're going to work through that is with the help of God. Like, that's it. But for those of you who are in the process of making that decision, that is why I get on here every week and lay out my life for you guys. Because I don't want you making those same mistakes. It keeps you trapped. It keeps you living at less than your full potential. And it keeps you from real happiness, right? And I know it's hard to picture your future where you are. And I've said this before. When you pray for a thing, you don't know the details. You don't know how it's going to look. You don't know the everydays, the in and outs. Like when I prayed to get married, I didn't know I would end up in this house. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know I would end up doing a show. I knew I wanted a garden. I didn't know, I didn't know the details. I just knew the goal that I wanted. I didn't know the details around it. And so I get that can be scary. I get it. But you have you literally got to get over it. Like I don't you know what I'm saying? I don't know how else to put it. You have to be willing to stand up and walk forward. I've been in situations in my life where I felt like I was at the bottom of a ditch screaming up for someone to help me. Okay? I've been through situations where I felt defeated, beat down, like this is the end. I should just give up now. I've been there. Okay? But I've also been in situations where I had to stand up and just keep walking through. Sometimes it feels like you got 100 pounds of weight on your back and you're trying to pull it by yourself. And the emotional strain that's the work. Okay. Once your emotions are in check, then it's easy for you to physically follow. Like once you've got your mindset that, okay, no, I want more than this. No matter what it takes, if it means re-educating yourself, even if you just attend YouTube University or whatever, okay? I wanted to learn how to sew pillows, right? I found out how to sew pillows. Now I can go in there and sew a pillow. And I know I'm oversimplifying it, but it really is that simple in terms of deciding you want to do something and determining that you're going to keep walking forward. And I'm not saying that you're not going to have bumps and bruises. I'm not saying that some days you're not going to be straight up knocked down and feel defeated. That's going to happen. But the point is that you don't lay there in the defeat. You don't lay there in the knockdown. Yes, things happen to all of us. We take losses, people hurt us, the money start acting up, kids get sick, you get sick, car breaking down. But what you have to realize is life continues to go on. Time stops for no one. Okay? So guess what? You may have had this interview and your car is broke down. It doesn't matter if you call them, hey, my car's broke down. Can I come for an interview tomorrow? If they find a person that they want today, you missed your opportunity. Whether it's your fault or not, whether you could afford the Uber or not, your opportunity is now gone. And here, I'm not saying that God won't provide another opportunity, but stay with me where I'm at right now. Okay? You refusing to move, you refusing to move. I'm gonna say refusing because unless it's like some kind of emergency, get your behind up and do what you have to do. And see, this is what I'm saying. Like, y'all don't want to hear this as women, okay? But when a man is doing it and then requiring the things that he requires for doing it, then that's a whole nother problem. Okay, but that's a whole nother show. So let's get back to where we are right now. Get up and do it. You keep saying you want to have the content. Get up and make the content. You want to pick up the hobby. You want to be a better wife. Be a better wife. You want to be a better mother. Make that your focus. Pick up a book. Yes, the principles for parenting are in the Bible, absolutely. But I'm a huge advocate of further educating yourself. Like, please pick up a book, talk to some trusted individuals. In this world where information is literally in your pocket, excuse me, there are so many different ways to get information to push you in that right direction. You want a closer relationship with God, you already know what to do. And a lot of us don't want to do that again because you know why? It requires silence. And a lot of us don't like to sit in the silence because then there's nothing to distract the voices. And I don't want to say the voices, but it is. You're dealing with God, hopefully. You're dealing with yourself. You know what I mean? And just all the influences in our thought process. That's what I mean by the voices. And a lot of us, we don't like to sit with our thoughts. We don't like to work through them. But there comes a time when you are not going to be able to progress past your thoughts. If you cannot envision yourself in your end goal, then you won't be able to get there. And if you don't take any time to sit with yourself, be quiet with yourself, how are you supposed to build any kind of vision? Being a better woman is a vision. Being a better wife is a vision. Being a better mom, these are visions you can have for yourself. A better relationship with those around you. These are goals that you can set for yourself. But again, if you're not willing to do the work, then it doesn't matter. You say you want a better relationship with your kids, but you can't be bothered to give them the time of day when it's not good for you. You say you want a better relationship with your kids, but every time they come to you, all you can think about is all the hell they put you through in their life. Would you want to talk to God if all he did was constantly put your sin up in your face? How likely are you to want to pray then? How and I'm not talking about conviction. No. Sometimes you just got to stand flat-footed and take it. You was wrong. You got to deal with it. Okay? But we all know people who just hold grudges forever. Right? I pray that you're not one of those people because all you're really doing is hurting yourself. You understand what I'm saying? Like, people who are attached to you, yes, they're attached to you, but they still have their own lives and their own path. You staying stuck in that grudge, that's not going to stop them from moving on. That's not going to stop them from finding people who love them in their life. That's not going to stop them from happiness. And all that does is leave you a pillar of salt, mean mugging and hating on everybody else because they refuse to stay in the past with you. That's what a lot of us want people to do. Remember what I did for you 5, 10, 15 years ago? Okay, great. Yes, and I appreciate that 5, 10, 15. But that was 5, 10, 15 years ago, honey. Like Miss Janet said, what have you done for me lately? What are you doing now? What about today? What are you contributing today? And that's what you need to be asking yourself. How am I improving myself today? What am I doing to better myself today? And let me say this. Once you start praying these prayers, you have to be prepared for the answer, whether you like it or not. Okay. Because it's gonna come. I mean, God is not a liar. He hears you. So the answer to your questions will start being revealed. And then you have to be ready to deal with that. You can't run back and hide. I know it's hard. I've had to face some hard truths about myself. And I'm just like in this weird growth phase right now. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking to y'all from what I'm currently going through. All right. So I'm not talking from a place of I'm not talking from a pedestal. All right. I'm not talking a- as someone who can't relate. I'm talking to you as somebody who's going through it right now and who can tell you right now, yes, it hurts. It hurts. Plenty of days you will cry. Plenty of days you will feel abandoned. You will feel lonely. And here's the thing, you're you can be surprised at who the hurt is coming from. You will be surprised at the people who you have to let go of in order to progress. Some people, as much as they say they love you, let me read this comment. Acceptance and accountability are key in moving from the past. I had to accept my faults. Exactly. Because if you're not willing to accept your faults, then you're not ever going to ask for help because you don't need help, right? I forgot who I said this about, but you'll go to an alcohol anonymous meeting and let everybody else introduce themselves and sit there and be like, y'all just a bunch of alcoholics. That's a person who refuses to take accountability. That's a person who won't accept their faults. You'll sit in a room of other people with the same problems and issues as you, and instead of you caring enough for yourself, loving yourself, taking enough personal responsibility for yourself and saying, yes, it's me, I have a problem too, you'll just sit there and look down your nose at everyone else while they are getting help. And let me just say that if you are in a situation or you have a person in your life who's watching you grow, watching you progress, and they're constantly looking down their nose at you, making little slick comments, baby, keep moving forward. Keep moving forward because a year from now, 2 years from now, you'll be so far ahead of them. All they can do is sit behind your back and talk about you. Some people don't feel like you're entitled to anything better. They don't feel like you're entitled to a peaceful life. They don't feel like you're entitled to happiness. You shouldn't have a good job. You shouldn't be able to provide for yourself. They want you broke down and destitute because they know that's the only way that you'll deal with them. It's just like a man who verbally abuses a woman and just constantly berates her and berates her. He's just damaged her self-esteem to the point where she can't even see herself functioning without him, even though he's like literally sucking the blood out of her. And it does not just happen with men, it can happen with other relationships in your life. In this phase of your growth, you need to reevaluate those relationships and figure out which of these relationships are helping me grow. Who is helping me with acceptance and accountability? I praise God for my husband. I do. Because listen, I know it's not easy to deal with me. And I know it's never easy to call somebody out on their ish, even though he makes it look very, I don't really think he has a problem doing that. But you know what I mean? Like it's hard because you don't know how the other person is going to react and you don't know, the consequences of the conversation. But we all need somebody who's willing to hold the mirror up to us and say, listen, babe, this is what you got to fix. And you have to be willing to sit in front of the mirror and deal with that. A lot of us have damaged good relationships, will damage good relationships because we refuse to let the man do his job. And like, what do you mean by let the man do his job? It's his job to call you out. It's his job to hold you accountable. You are supposed to be his helpmeet. But how can you help him if you're not your full self? When you go to work and give 110, 120, 150. You be in that building 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So why doesn't your spouse, your husband, why doesn't your family deserve that same 110, 120, 150 from you? Well, in order to get to that 110, 150, sometimes we have to face issues with our attitude, with our spirit, with our emotions, especially us as women. Sometimes we lean on, the excuse of our emotions a little bit too hard. And I'm not saying that there are not valid times, okay? But as a woman, it is up to you to understand that, be able to track that, and to manage that. It's not everybody's fault that you're PMSing. But you do owe it to the people around you to understand what's going on with you and be able to communicate that. And now what you can't do is every day be an emotional day. No, but if some days my husband might come to me and be like, "You all right today?" And I have to check the calendar, like, no, nope, not today. No, not today. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay, but you need to know that. And then you need to know, okay, today I need to work on being a little quiet because my emotions is a little off the chain. I know when when I have like the week before Aunt Flo shows up, I feel so anxious. The world is about to end. I mean, it's horrible. I hate it. My emotions are all over the place. Everything makes me cry. And then a day or two later, Aunt Flo appears, right? And then you're like, oh, that's why I was acting like that. Okay. You need to be able to communicate that with the people around you, especially your husband. You need to be able to, if he come to you and be like, you acting a little crazy. You need to be able to check that and say, like, oh, you know what? It's almost time for Aunt Flo to show up. Let me check myself. And on those days, I talk a little slower. I try to talk a little quieter to keep myself calm. That's taking personal responsibility. All right. That's doing what I have to do to preserve my relationships, right? Because yeah, you may be anxious, you may be having a bad day, and it may be no fault of your own. But when you lash out at people, that they don't understand that, right? All they know is like, well, dang, here you go yelling at me again. I don't want to deal with this. You can't lean on, this is just the way I am. This is how I was brought up. This is what they did to me. You can't lean on that because let me tell you something. These kids these days, they not putting up with that crap, as they shouldn't have to. And for those of y'all with smaller children, they're going to grow up one day and they're not going to need you. See, when they're small, they need you. So they have to put up with that crap. They have to put up with how you talk to them, how you treat them. But one day, they're going to grow up and they're not going to need you anymore. And they're going to be able to make their own choices and their own decisions. And then you'll see by how much they choose to be around you the effects of your actions. And I'm imploring you not to wait that long. I'm imploring you not to rob them and not to rob yourself of a open, loving, honest relationship with anyone around you. Okay? But remaining in the past, keeping your eye and your mind and your spirit in the past is the best way to damage that, because instead of now accepting personal responsibility, you will cling to, well, this is just the way I am. This is how we've always done it. This is what we do. I had to deal with it. Why don't you have to deal with it too? This is the rhetoric, the excuse that you give, and you will sit and wallow in that excuse by yourself for the rest of your life while everyone is moving on and having healthy and happy relationships without you. You can't figure out why. Well, all your friends getting married, they buying houses, they getting new cars, they're getting promotions, and you can't figure out why. You don't understand why life's not happening for you because you won't let it. You won't let it happen for you. You're like a person who refuses to acknowledge a new day, so they keep on the same draws. And eventually them draws is going to start stinking. But you refuse to acknowledge, so you're going to leave them draws on and they're going to continue to stink. And people are going to continue to be repelled by that. Nobody wants to be around that. And just because you're comfortable in it, that doesn't mean anybody else has to be. That doesn't mean they have to tolerate it. It doesn't mean they have to stay around for it. But again, when you refuse to accept your faults, when you refuse to take accountability, there's no other way to move forward. Because again, if you don't acknowledge that you have a problem to work on, then you're not going to do the work. You're just not going to do it. You don't feel there's anything to work on. No matter how many people come and tell you, you could probably, or this part of your attitude. It's like you keep getting the same problem wrong on the homework. And the teacher's telling you, like, hey, you need to fix number 5. You need to fix number 5. And you're looking at everything else but number 5 because you don't want to face number 5. You have to fix it in order to move on. And I'm not saying that, it's all on you as a human. Absolutely not. Lean on your help. Pray to God. Ask for his help. Ask him to guide you. Like, no, seriously. And this is what I be saying. If you listen, you have to be honest with yourself so that you can be honest with God first and foremost. He already knows. He already knows your in and outs. He already knows your quirks. He already knows the thing that's hurting you, the person that's hurt. He already knows this. He needs you to know it so now y'all can work together to get it resolved. He's not going to come and hijack your life. I don't even want to get into that. I was about to say something about free will, but that's another topic. So I don't want to get into that. But he's not going to come and hijack your life. And I'm not saying there are not times when God will not interfere. That definitely happens. But I'm just talking in general. He's told you time and time again, don't go to that place. Don't go to that place. Don't go to that place. Don't go over there. But you take your little happy tail over there anyway. And then when something happens, you can't blame God. He told you not to go over there. You want him, see, and this is a thing. We don't want to exercise any self-control. It's very much a fruit of the spirit. Most of our sins come from lack of self-control. But you don't want to control yourself. You don't want to control your feelings. You don't want to control your emotions. You just want to be able to let your emotions spill all over the place, let your feelings spill all over other people, and think that they have to take on that weight. That's not going to work. You'll find yourself by yourself. You don't want to exercise self-control, so you continue to make bad decisions. And then you wonder why you can't get anywhere. You know, you could say that it's a pretty simple equation. Personal responsibility, self-control, it's easy to list the building blocks of healing or the steps to progression. They have the 12 steps, and there are steps, and I can sit here and list the steps for you and tell you what it looks like, right? But it's a thing that you have to experience on your own, because in that experience, now you are being changed. Now your mind is being changed. Like, it's I can't think of this saying, but there's a saying that talks about a person being able to entertain an idea without embracing it, right? Like, I can learn about other cultures, other foods or whatever. That doesn't mean I have to embrace it. I studied religion in college, okay? I didn't embrace every other religion. I was able to learn about it, study it, and say, "Oh, okay, that seems to work for that person." And that's okay. But a lot of us cannot think about things apart from ourselves. Like, you can't have an idea without feeling like you need to embrace it, without feeling like you need to personalize it. That's the word I'm looking for. Without feeling like you need to internalize and personalize it and make it a part of you. Right? And so this keeps us from like learning a lot of stuff. I lost my train of thought where I was going with that when I went into my example or whatever. But I'm bringing this out because a lot of us won't you won't accept a person or a thing that is not comfortable to you. And even beyond accepting it, you won't even entertain it. So, how can you move forward to new things if you're not even open into hearing about new things? New ways of thinking, new ways of behaving, new ways of treating people, right? And I'm going to say this, like, I feel like a lot of our parents, I'm 42, my parents are in their 60s. So I feel like a lot of our parents, of course, I mean, they dealt with things that we probably can't imagine. Especially, I'm going to say, especially for my family, being poor, being Black, okay? At the time that they were living in, you know what I'm saying? They dealt with things, they had to deal with attitudes from their parents, who, as much as we don't like to admit it, were not that far removed from slavery. Okay? And, I don't think any of us has to really think how much parenting was being taught in slavery. Not at all, right? You didn't learn about relationships. You didn't learn how to treat other people. You didn't learn about any of that. It was pretty much just a struggle to survive and keep you alive. And so that's the kind of parenting that a lot of our parents came up under, just trying to survive and keep you alive. And some of them never transitioned out of that. So then that mentality was passed on to us. So are we going to keep going with this? Are we going to keep teaching the adulterated version of Americanized Christianity? Are we going to keep exposing our children to pagan holidays and idol worship? Are we going to keep doing this? Are we going to acknowledge that we have to leave these things in the past in order to move forward towards the kingdom? Okay, if we're going to bring this thing home, that's what it's really about. Forget a man, and even at this point, forget your children. The goal is the kingdom of God. And you can't get in there with sin. And I know a lot of us don't like to consider us on that list, the liars, the adulterers, the whoremongers. But a lot of y'all are liars. Like, you lied to yourself. You lied to yourself about the present, and you lied to yourself about the past. And until you are willing to acknowledge the truth about your past, there is no hope for your present, and there surely is no hope for your future. If I'm not honest with myself, if I tie my shoes and my shoes are too tight, and I refuse to acknowledge it, guess what? Eventually, the blood's going to start flowing to my foot. My foot is going to become, and my foot's going to die, and they're going to have to cut off my foot. Now I'm without a foot. All because I wouldn't acknowledge. And again, I know I'm oversimplifying. If you refuse to acknowledge your lack of self-control, the very lack of self-control that got you into the situations or situation that you don't want to be in, or led you to the situation that you realized you didn't want to be in, if you're not willing to let go of those things, you're never going to get out of that situation. If you're not willing to recognize the lack of self-control that got you in that situation, all you're going to do is keep getting into those kinds of situations. If you refuse to acknowledge the lack of self-control that keeps you getting into these friends with benefit situations, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, you crying because he ain't calling you, you're going to keep going through the same thing. You're going to keep ending up a friend with benefits. You're never going to be a wife. You're never even going to be a girlfriend, because you refuse to control yourself to hold out for what you want. I get it's hard to say no. I get it can be lonely, especially for us women. And especially, when you have happily married people in your ear. Like, I get that. And it is easy to as I did, okay, when I was the one in the audience listening, it is easy to look at the person and be like, oh, well, that's easy for you to say you have a husband, or that's easy for you to say you have this, or that's easy for you to say you have that. But what I'm trying to portray to you is you too, ma'am, sis, cousin, can have this if you are willing to do the work, go through the process, and let go of your past. When me and my husband first got married, I was not ready to let go all the way, right? And I've told y'all this before. I grew up with male friends. I have one female friend, like a person that I can call right now and tell her anything, and I know she's not going to tell nobody else. So when I get married now, and my husband's like, ain't no male friends, it was kind of like, guess I didn't consider that part, huh? But that was hard for me. But it's like, okay, am I going to hold on to what had been my past? Am I going to hold on to that and forego my marriage? Throw away my future because of the way I had been living before? And if you know my husband at all, you know he wasn't going for that. My husband don't go for that. He don't know. that I would not be here, right? I would not be Miss Mono today. Let me assure you. And he would have all right to do that. It wasn't an unreasonable request. He would have all right to do that. But and I hear it so much. Oh, I'll never stop doing this, or you can't never take this from me, or we get so attached to things, so attached to people, so attached to places that when something new and better is right in front of us, a lot of us don't have the wherewithal, the common sense, the knowledge to know that, okay, I need to let go of this thing that is keeping me in this place that I don't want to be. Because a lot of y'all is holding on to a nigga that's never going to marry you. He's never going to move you out of your mama's, his mama's, or whoever mama house y'all living in. Like a lot of y'all are in these situations, and you need to acknowledge that. You'll be forever engaged. You'll be engaged for the next 20 years and have 4 more kids. And listen, again, if you're happy with that, then by all means, go ahead with that. Like, I don't, to go back to the conversation earlier, listen, if y'all consider yourself married, then you married. You don't get to leave. Like, let's be clear. If when that man told you sex is marriage, you agreed to it, then boo-boo, you're married. Okay? You can't leave him no more than I can leave my husband. Divorce is divorce. If you got to legally go through it or not, in the eyes of God, it's still a divorce. Okay? And so this is what I mean. Don't just accept any old thing if that's not what you really want. Don't settle for less than you deserve, less than you want. And I'm not speaking materialistically when I say that. I know a lot of times when, people hear this, or when you hear women saying these things, the first thing people go is to like material things, but I'm not even talking about material things. Because life is, now, don't get me wrong, I like to be comfortable, okay? I like nice things. But we're talking about something separate, okay? It's not just about material things. You want to surround yourself with, you want a husband that's going to work to give you the life that you want. You do. Okay? And by not affirming that want, by not validating that want, by not making it clear, you're only doing a disservice to yourself. Because again, a pig is happy in slop. A pig don't know no better. He's fine in the slop. Just like the story of the prodigal son. He found himself eating with the pigs. The pigs didn't know anything was wrong. That was cool with them. That is what they had been doing. This is their life. You're the one with the problem because you know more than this. You know better than this. You know that your life can be more. It may have been more before, but you definitely know there's more going forward. And you're the one with the problem. And again, this is the problem when you refuse to let go of people, when you refuse to let go of your past. Because you might be looking around like, well, nobody else is complaining. Nobody else has a problem. I guess this might be all right. But the calling for more is on you. It may not be on them. That may be their destiny to live and die in those projects, to live and die in that hood. And you should leave them to that, boo-boo. You, just because this is what someone else is destined. I'm not even going to say decided. You know what I mean? Some people can't decide. Look at the people around you. Look at the people that you've left behind. Do you think that they, with their whole mind and conscience, choose the situations that they are in? Do you think that they, with their whole mind, said, I'm going to stay on this one-way street on this block for the rest of my life? When they were a little kid, did they dream of never leaving these projects? I'm going to just inherit this project apartment from my mom. And no, that I'm not ready to say, oh, they're happy where they are. They chose this life, whatever. Regardless, though, what about you? What are you doing? Because when it's you alone, it's just your thoughts. You're not dealing with anybody else's thoughts. You're not dealing with anybody else's mind. You're dealing with your thoughts. And if you've ever tried to run from God, you will understand that there is no peace outside of the will of God. There's no peace for you. There's not peace in your mind. You're not even going to be able to sleep well. You can't even eat right. Your stomach hurting all the time. You always tired, sick, and run down. Can't figure out why. Nothing's ever working for you. There is no peace outside the will of God. And the longer that you stay there, the more of a mess you're going to make of your life, period. A lot of y'all don't have mental health issues. You're outside the will of God. Some of y'all, it ain't that deep. You're just outside the will of God. Seriously. Every time I turn around, something going on because you're outside the will of God. If you were where God would have you to be, I'm not saying that there won't be problems, but there will be provision for your problems. There's a difference between your car, and this happened to me. Somebody hitting your car and running, right? You ain't got no insurance. So now you got to try to figure out how to make things work, how you bumming rides, riding around in a raggedy car until you can get a new one. There's a difference between that happening to you and now you're in the will of God. So something happens to your car, but that's okay. Here's another replacement. Or it's cool. This is the week you was on vacation anyway. These are the kind of serendipitous events that occur inside his will. But you will never know that because you're too scared to leave where you are and come over here to the bright side of life. Let me assure you that there is a happiness that you have never known on the other side of your growth. There is a life that you had never imagined. All of those moments that you see other people having that you want for yourself, you can have those. But you have to be willing to leave the past and come into the will of God. There's no way around it. I cannot tell you. Like, there are times when things happen and I'm like, oh, OMG, this is something I always wanted to have happen. And that is like one of the best feelings. But I know this could not occur outside of the will of God. So let me tell you how the devil will fool you, right? Because some of y'all will know that you're outside the will of God. So don't be surprised if tomorrow something happens or tonight something happens to fool you into a false sense of peace and security. Because that's what the enemy likes to do. Lull you to sleep so that you refuse to even be aware that you need to move. What are they? The frog in the slowly boiling water. You put the frog in the water, you slowly turn up the heat, and the frog doesn't realize that it's boiling to death. That's what happens to us when we get comfortable in our sin and refuse to move forward. You don't feel the trouble coming. You don't feel the water boiling until it's too late. And by then, we can only pray that God have mercy on your soul and decide to deliver you on this side. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we play too much in sin. And that's really, I guess, what I should have titled it. You're stuck in your sin. You're stuck there. You're comfortable there. It feels good to your body. Your brain is a creature of habit. Your brain is going to do what you have trained it to believe is comfortable to you. So you don't think twice about taking that phone call. You don't think twice about answering that you up text. You don't think twice about these things because it feels good to your body. And this is what you're used to doing. And this is how you end up in these situations that you need to be delivered from. You understand what I'm saying? Staying in the sin. Now you got a STD. Now you got to go to the doctor. Now you got some kind of mental, emotional issue. Now you got to try to figure out if you need therapy or how you're going to work through it. Now you're a single mom and you're struggling to make ends meet. Too many things happen to us when we're stuck in our sin. And then once we are hurt, once we are beat down from the consequences of our sin, now we want to turn to God for the answer. When if we would have turned to him in the first place to help us deal with our hurt and our loneliness, we wouldn't be in this situation we are in now. Not only will we not be in this situation, then you get to thinking about how much further you could be in life because you're looking at the 2, 3, 4, 5 years you don't wasted where you could have been in school, you could have been educating yourself, you could have been promoting yourself at work, you could have been you could have been working on yourself, you could have been doing other things with your life. But we did not have the wherewithal to pull ourselves out of the sin. And so now here we are later. And the fun of the sin is gone. He gone. Y'all not in love no more. Or he not in love. You probably still are because that's how it goes. Okay, he's gone. You're dealing with the kids. You're bitter. You're angry. You're tired. The thrill is gone, but you're still paying the consequences. And if you don't acknowledge that it was a sin, if you refuse to let go of the past, guess what? The next guy you meet, you're going to repeat the same cycle because until you refuse to acknowledge your problem, you're just going to keep running into the same spirit time and time and time again. And I used to didn't understand when people said that to me. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Until I changed my mind. Until I changed my mind. And I see the kind of husband I have now. And I look back at the foolishness that I dealt with. And now, oh, that's what they was talking about. And it's not we expect like this great big thing to occur. And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's just you having enough sense to tell a nigga no. When me and my husband were dating, when we first started, there was somebody else from my past who was trying to come back. Right? I went on a date with him. And I had the chance to see that this is still the same person that I left 5 years ago. Still the same person. Now, I could have said, well, this is familiar, so this is what I'm going to go with. But that wasn't what I wasn't looking for the familiar. And that's what y'all got to start determining. Don't look for the familiar. Listen, I know people want to make all these exceptions and act like things are just so complicated, but I'm here to tell you that sometimes things are just black and white what it is. All right. So if you're looking at this person and you've already sampled their behavior and you know that you don't like it, there's no reason to keep going back. There's really not. If a man wants to prove to you that he's changed, he's going to go out of his way to do that. No matter how much you resist, put up a fight, and I'm not talking about in any violating, stalkerish type of way. Okay? But if a man is serious about you and he really has changed, he's going to show you that you're not going to have to do anything. See, y'all be sitting up here like, oh, I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to give him a chance. Why? Why are you going to give him a chance? It's not up to you to give him a chance. It's up for him to make the chance. My husband did not leave time for anybody else. He made it very clear that he wanted all of my time, all of my attention. He made himself present for that, to the point where I wasn't thinking about nobody else because I was content with him at the time. I wasn't thinking about nobody else. But see, y'all won't let a nigga do that for you. That nigga ain't thinking about you. He at home in the bed chilling. But you are so content with the idea of somebody liking you that that's enough for you. You're not interested in anybody else. You're not dating anybody. This idea of this man saying that he likes you, you just thinking somebody likes you is enough for you. No, we have to come out of that. And a lot of times we hold on to these dead-end relationships, again, out of fear. Not only is it holding you back physically, it's holding you back spiritually. How can you grow if you continue to live in sin? And even if y'all not shacking up, you fornicating. And I don't know why I keep going to this. But if a man is telling you that sex is marriage, then that means that all the requirements of marriage are going to be followed, right? So he's providing and protecting. He's covering. Like he's doing all these things that a husband is supposed to do. If that's not happened, then sex is not marriage to him. And these things should be going on before you know what I'm saying? Okay. I hope I said something that was helpful on today. Like I have notes and stuff, but then I just started talking or whatever. But I do want to leave you with this. Your growth is going to require you to stand 10 toes down and face your past, face yourself, face the truth, right? And I want you to go forward knowing that there's so much better for you on the other side. And there's joy in walking through the journey. It's not all bad. Yes, you have to face your regrets, but there is a joy in learning new things about yourself. Once you realize how strong you really can be, of course, with God on your side, that is empowering. That's empowering right there. Okay. And we'll talk about, empowerment through your sexuality and all that stuff. No, that is the total opposite. Once you decide to take God at his word and walk the path that he is leading you on, that is empowering. And again, it's not faith in yourself. It's not faith in man. It's faith in the God that's leading you, right? My strength is not in me. It's in him. Okay. So I just want to leave y'all with that. Again, I hope there was something I said. Please like, share, subscribe. If you're on the YouTube, share. You can follow me at the wife of Mono on here we go. Okay. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all those wonderful social media outlets. Please give a follow to my wonderful husband at Monologue McGad. He is on Facebook, IG. He be tripping on TikTok. I'm trying to get him on TikTok, y'all, but he's not coming over to the brighter side of things. I don't know why. Okay. And at Mono's Westside Bullies on IG. Let me hold on. Pushing buttons here. Okay. It's not working for me. All right, y'all. It's tripping. My bad. No, here we go. Okay. At Mono's Westside Bullies on IG, and I think we're on Facebook. If you feel led to give, the Cash App is $ the House of Mono. If you feel led. Okay, y'all, I gotta go. I love you. Shalom and good night.
One time.